Great. So our next panel is going to be Feed Your Soul, and Ollie is going to be our moderator. Is she? Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Great. Thanks.
Thanks. You guys, I just started moderating this morning, so if I fuck up,
Okay, I've never met you in person, but you spoke with Dorian, right?
Yeah, for sure. Nice meeting you guys. Hey guys. So I'm a big fan of helping my friends reach their goals, and my friend Allison's over in Asia right now with Lululemon. So her boyfriend's like, she really wants you to wear something from her line. So I'm just gonna run something over. So he just ran over the Celic here. The Celic is the name of it for obvious reasons. So I know my kicks don't go with it, but I just wanted to like clear that because a lot of people were like, where did you get that sweater? It's so amazing. My girlfriend Allison, gonna be a big time designer one of these days. She already is, but Celic, yeah. Celic, hashtag Celic. Thanks. So cool, I guess it's a pretty good shot for us to go across the board here and just introduce who we are. My name's Ollie Maughan. I co-found a little raw food sauce company called Murphy's Raw with my better half, Jake Maughan. And I'm also the global social media manager for a company called Lyfe Kitchen, which was started by Oprah Chef and Whole Foods and a whole bunch of McDonald's. Yeah, to try to save the US from obesity. So global social media strategy person means I just tweet to a lot of people on like a large scale. That's really all it is. Yeah. Oh, go for it.
I'm Lisa Giroday, and I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners of Victory Gardens. Hi everyone, how is everyone doing? The energy, come on. Okay, so I'm Wahiba, and I'm the founder and CEO right now of CarrotLines. It's a local health and fitness community, and we also have an app called CarrotLines powered by Tommy Europe.
I'm Sandra Lopuch. I'm one of the co-founders and co-owners of Victory Gardens, and we help people grow food in the city.
Hi, I'm Deanna Embury from Licious Living. I'm one of the co-founders of the company, and we focus on making healthy eating easy for people. So we have retail cafes and personal meal delivery services and corporate services.
Hello everyone, my name is Lara Kozan. Out of drawings from when I was a little girl and love and passion that everyone in the world needs to do yoga, I founded a company called YYoga.
Awesome. Whew. Okay, so I got a few questions here. Pretty stoked to get started. So I guess we'll go across the panel and we'll each answer this question because everyone here's a founder. What inspired you guys to start your own business and how did you get it going? Laura, you want to start at that end?
Sure, I guess I've got the microphone. I feel like I need to stand up because
Yeah,
I'm
why
on
don't
a
you take
shorter
this seat?
chair. I'm like, I can't see you in the back there.
Laura, come up here, take the seat. I'll moderate like
Okay.
Jeremy Kyle or somebody.
Changing things up, sorry.
Yeah.
So the question was, how did we get started? When I was a little girl, I drew wellness centers. I had visions, I had dreams of wellness centers that I drew, and I wish I had those pictures now, but I don't. And I grew up in Saskatchewan. So imagine Saskatchewan, how 30-some years ago, it wasn't exactly like the most inspiring ground for like how to start a yoga center. But I knew back then that I knew like what happiness was or health, and I wanted to share that. And then the visions with YYoga came when I moved to Vancouver in 2000. I practiced yoga for the first time. Oh, I see some yogis out there. I practiced yoga for the first time. I did it one day, and then I did it every day for, let's just say, 365 days until I could do it twice a day. And then I eventually started on the path to finding different partners, finding different studios. We went all across Canada, from Vancouver to, I think, as far as Halifax. One of my partners at the time went to Halifax, looking for spaces, looking for places to grow our idea. And we eventually found our way back, and I think my biggest thing was that I wanted to open one yoga studio, but I wanted everyone in the world to practice yoga, and the two didn't line up. So I needed to bring the communities together and get everybody on board for helping out with the dream that I had. And then we began starting YYoga and bringing people together to get more people inspired to get on the mat.
Well, Victory Gardens was started pretty organically. One of our co-founders, Sam, was really just helping a couple of friends grow food. So she had started the practice and moved away. I started to take over these clients' needs. Both Sam and I have been growing food for a number of years. And once Sam got back, we were in the garden one day chatting about what our experience was working with these clients. And I had begun to think, one day pulling carrots out of the ground or something like that, that maybe there was an opportunity to enter into, I guess, as an umbrella statement, the landscaping industry, but in an edible context. And when Sam got back, I was talking to her, I think there's an opportunity here. We have some clients that are already paying for our services, and all of our friends ask us what it takes to grow food. So maybe there's something here. But we started to explore what other opportunities were within this idea of helping people grow food, and realize that a lot of people want to learn, and a lot of people want to do the work, and they just need a little help along the way. So that was where the concept of Victory Gardens was born. The name paralleling the historic Victory Gardens war campaigns during World War I and World War II were all about self-sufficiency and creating community around food, and creating a social space and sense of camaraderie, particularly in the front yard context. So with also, a little bit of political connotation. So we pulled on that because we feel the same sense of urgency now when it comes to growing food and participating in the new food system. So yeah, I guess that's how it was born. And once Sam and I started talking about it, we looped Sandra in on the conversation. She's, as we were talking about earlier, playing on one another's assets. Sandra is a really integral piece to that puzzle in terms of design and organization. So yeah, that's how we got started, and we're now about 16 months old. So.
So our company's CarrotLines, I started also organically. Actually, I think it's a theme today, probably. I've always been passionate about health and fitness, and coming from a tech background, I knew that this was going to be the future, that ultimately consumers would be demanding having information at their fingertips, whether it's food information or other information, but most importantly, food information. And there was a lot of confusion in the marketplace at the time about food labels and allergies, and the trend of, all these trends that are now sort of established of gluten-free, vegan, organic, were just coming together really in the early 2007, 2008 period. So I thought, there was no actual information that any Canadian could access that had the food they would purchase, other than the packaging. So we started working on the idea of collecting this massive database, which wasn't an easy sort of task to tackle on, but we just found a need in the market. I was at the time doing my MBA at SFU, so I think just being in school, and it gave me a really good platform to do a lot of research and market research and learn, realize that a lot of the vision that I had were trends that were supported by research that I was doing. And it's interesting when you follow along, starting things maybe a little bit ahead of the trend, and then you follow through, you see it growing, that the trend is happening, and you just establish at the time, but it's still a lot of work to be done. So I think I started this because it's just been my passion ever since, and I think everyone here, for example, in the room has probably a passion they want to start, and it's just a matter of growing it organically, and just I think the path just kind of follows you from there.
I won't say much about Victory Gardens other than how I guess to speak to the other conversation that was happening, I kind of always knew since I was really young that I wanted to be involved in some kind of small business, and I thought that would be in the design world, which was my background. And when I kind of phased out of doing design for the last 5 years, I've had very different roles, and I kind of was very confused as to what my skill sets, how they all blended together, and Victory Gardens seemed like the most perfect fit in terms of what all the holes that were in it that I could fill with all the different skills that I had. And then just, my interest in learning more about how to grow food.
Licious Living was born basically because I think I was like our perfect client. I was working in the film industry, in a film office, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and sort of loving it, like it was crazy, but really sort of I was in my 20s, like thriving on that environment and the challenge of growing a career and being in a business environment. But also have always been someone who places a really high priority on health. And I was, running marathons and trying to keep up that side of my life. And it was really next to impossible. And I, when you're in and out that office space, it's not an industry that necessarily really had any focus at all on, health and nutrition for their employees by any stretch. And I, recognized I wasn't eating junk food, but I was skipping meals, living on like Diet Coke, rice cakes, licorice was around, like anything that kind of did the fix, but really wasn't feeding my body. So something was going to have to give. And we used to have like directors and actors and producers come up from the States and ask, well, what meal delivery service do you have in town? And I was like, oh my God, I need this meal delivery service. Like this is for me. Like where can I get healthy meals that are tailored for, the calories that I need each day delivered to me so that I can keep up with my physical activity, so that I can work a long day, so that I can reach my other goals in life aside from being a healthy person. And so that's essentially how the company was born. I started with another partner. We bootstrapped it for the first year. We put, had the ability to work for free, threw, the $20,000 we each had into a pot and sort of, crossed our fingers and worked really, really hard. And then sort of flash forward 5 years later, we launched the retail arm of it, which was making grab and go. Sort of our whole goal behind that business was, listening to our customers that were receiving, personal meal delivery every day, who wanted to, grab and go single serve meals. And there was really nothing in the market space. It was really challenging to be out anywhere. Like whether you're downtown, whether you're shopping, if you had to grab food, it was extremely hard to grab healthy food and grab food from a place where you trusted what they were giving you was healthy, not just saying it's fresh and having any questionable numbers of ingredients or content. So that it all was born from, I guess, a personal need and a love for health and wellness and a recognition, when I hit a point in my life where I really needed convenience food services. I wanted the food to taste good, but to really enable the other areas of my life, I needed to have healthy food accessible to me beyond myself, shopping and cooking and learning how to, produce great recipes. So that's it.
Awesome. Got my own here. Yeah. Proud to say Selleck is now trending in this room. Thanks, guys. Just joking. I don't know that to be true at all. So you actually lead right into the next question on what wellness means for you guys now. Everyone's sort of like, I grew up on Hamburger Helper and KFC. Anybody else? No? Yeah, one back there. One person back there? Okay. Still do. Okay. Whoa. So I guess the question is, what does wellness mean to you now? And what was the point, I know we talked about pulling carrots, the aha moment where you kind of understood the importance of whole foods. I don't know if Annalie is here yet. I bought an ethical deal and did a raw and organic cooking class over at Indigo Foods on 16th. And this woman walked in and she's like, yeah, I'm 50. And she looked 30. And I'm like, what do you do? She's like, I just rub cocoa butter on my face every day. And I'm like, everywhere, all over me. I still look 50. But what was it for you? What was that aha moment? We'll start at this end, maybe, and go back. Yeah, let's reverse it.
The recognition that I needed healthy food came with starting the company, but it was actually after I started to become our own client. So, at the time when I was probably I was definitely eating a lot less food. I was on, not intentionally, but just because I was so busy, probably under eating. I was probably, just overall not healthy, maybe 10 pounds overweight and just felt physically sluggish. And thought that maybe because I was carrying extra weight because somehow I was eating too much or something was going on, it was actually that I was eating too little and that I was eating the wrong foods. So again, I wasn't, running to a fast food place, but I wasn't putting, a good range of whole foods into my body on a daily basis. And it's amazing what whole foods can do to fight stress. To keep your body at its ideal physical, inner and outer self. And so about 6 months into when we started the meal delivery service, I was eating the meals, and I realized that, my energy levels were crazy. My hours were as nuts, if not crazier, when I was working, but I felt great. I was a stronger runner. I had more energy. I was a happier person. And that really sort of solidified okay, I'm onto something here from a business perspective, but also I was just so pleased that, okay, if it can impact me, I'm sure it can impact other people. And, when I lost 10 pounds, I was like, this is fantastic. And I was eating a ton, and it was just the right foods. And that was really my kind of aha moment where I felt, okay, this has to be a part of, whatever I do, this has to be a part of my life. I have to make this a priority for me.
I feel pretty lucky that I've always had a really healthy relationship with food, both good and bad. My mom fed us really meat and potato meals, and I definitely, as a kid, pigged out on multiple bags of chips and chocolate. As chocolate, I still kind of do. And I think my aha moment came in my early 20s. I was going to a doctor to go see about some skin issues I was having, and I didn't like the pills that they were going to give me for it. I thought that it was a very backwards way of going about it. They were giving me pills to do one thing that had an intention to do another, and so I started seeing a naturopath, and through my naturopath, I got put on this path of healthier living, and in a totally different way that I had ever really experienced eating, including calling quinoa quinoa. So once I learned how to pronounce it,
we've all done that.
It's a lot easier
not
to
just
buy.
You. Yeah.
So that happened in my early 20s, and it's been a bit of a roller coaster with trying to keep up with that. I was in school, it was expensive, I didn't have much money. I really had to kind of weigh against how much am I spending on, maybe some of the clothing that I was buying, or, isn't it more important to be putting better food into my body? And just seeing the positive results of that has really sort of changed how I consume food on a regular basis. And since Victory Gardens, and even knowing Lisa and being a part of her garden in her backyard has really put me on an even higher level of food consumption, and realizing that, from growing food, I've realized how much I was wasting, or how much didn't need to be wasted, or how much the better stuff that I could be buying that would kind of give out, like if I could buy the better stuff and use more of it, then I didn't have to buy so much of the not so good stuff. Anyways, that's sort of my connection to food.
Thanks. I think in all of our minds, I think everyone now today we're all challenged. We have limited time. We have all different priorities, life, work, balance, etc. And everyone wants to be healthier, eat better, and work out more, move more. So I think we all sort of acknowledge that topic already. I think the challenge I realize is for us, the mantra is that we know we have to do this. It's like what's in our daily lives that's sort of preventing us from doing so. I think growing up myself, I was a very picky eater. Like my mom can tell you stories forever about how I wouldn't eat anything. For some reason, I had the odd love of cucumber and some vegetables and other things, but I was a pretty picky eater, which is why my mom tried really hard and really involved herself in nutrition, trying to provide me anything that I could eat at the time, a while ago, before nutrition, etc., was a big hot topic. And at the time, it wasn't because I was dieting or anything. I cared about my calories. I was just, I don't know, it's a personality. It's how I grew up. It's how I was born, just kind of really picky eater. And growing up, my mom instilled in me, I guess, the nutritional side, that she was reading up a lot of books and trying to find the best, most nutritious things she could give me as a child, because I wouldn't eat a lot and I just wouldn't eat. I learned from her, I guess, that side of me of being just very health conscious. And I went on to do, when I moved to the U.S. and North America, Canada, about over 10 years ago, I think that's when it really hit me, is coming up from a part of the world where food is just more of a pleasure, something you eat and you enjoy and share together. And coming here, I just realized people just such a stressful environment, and just food becomes such a sort of stressful, hot topic. It just kind of hit me just because I wasn't from this part of the world. And I realized I felt really, I thought, it was really interesting because coming from a part of the world or other parts of the world where there's just not enough food to, and people are struggling and they're still somewhat happy. And here, people, we're still struggling, even though we have the amount of food. It's more we're struggling in our daily lives to stay healthy. So I just thought there was some sort of paradox there. I don't know what didn't make sense. But there was enough food everywhere to feed all of us. It's just that both sides weren't happy or weren't fulfilled. So nourishment, I think, means a lot. It's not like, that's why the topic is very interesting of this panel. It's nourishing your soul. I think feeding yourself, I try to keep those values of just eating something not just because it's in front of you, but asking ourselves why we eat something. Are we hungry? Are we bored? Is that emotional eating? And I think these topics are coming up more explicitly nowadays, but it's something that's always been there. So food, the relationship, I think food should be about, personally anyway, should be about sharing and appreciating. And it's not about how much food you have, or it's about how much you appreciate it, just like anything. And I think these are just values that I grew up with, which I think extend to food, and that's something that I like to convey in anything I do and at the heart of what I do or what we do, whether it's tech focused or not. So, long story.
So I guess I want to speak to this a little bit in the context of Victory Gardens as opposed to possibly a personal shift, although that's where it starts. Much like with Sandra's piece about starting to engage in Eastern or alternative medicine practices versus Western, there became a new consciousness for me in terms of what good food and whole food looked like. And when we moved into a house, my partner and I, it seemed like a natural fit that we would start growing. And 5 years later, I could see that my life had changed, that the way I consumed totally changed. And this is to build, again, on Sandra's point, that the action of growing food really has the potential to shift the way that you consume in general. And we talk about that a lot in Victory Gardens because, food is just the catalyst, or can be in that context the catalyst, because you do start to think about waste, and you do start to think about where your food comes from, and you do start to think about how you can use your buying power to do things differently. So, or to participate in that change. So the aha moment for Victory Gardens was that we saw an opportunity in the marketplace for a business that helped people grow food because it didn't really exist, particularly in a way that was accessible and friendly and easy and engaging and had a sense of brand power and capacity. But also one that acknowledged that we do have the potential to participate in a new food system in a way that's not too difficult. Growing food is not that hard. It's something that pretty much everyone can do if you have a small amount of space. So that aha moment for me came from starting to grow food and then, moved into the business.
Again, growing up in Saskatchewan, I grew up on bologna and cheese. That was my staple, I think, my first words. And then I started practicing yoga, and I loved that the yoga practice sort of just had me craving different things. But because I was practicing yoga so much, it was sort of the panacea where I could eat healthy or I couldn't. It really didn't matter. I was still feeling great. Until, and I was going to say almost like two pivotal moments. One, I had my first child. And two, I had my second child. And these things all changed. And I don't think you need children to have this impetus. I think, you can get this awareness beforehand and be even more powerful in your yoga practice in your life. But for me, I like to learn lessons the hard way, and I'm going to change that in the future. But in the past, I need a 2x4. Anyways, with the birth of my first daughter, I realized, my family needs to be fed. And how do I feed my family best? And it was first learnings in just small things. And I'm sure all of you have made a green smoothie before. So we were making the green smoothies at home. And my daughter has amazing, impeccable eating habits because I would give her a green smoothie, mostly with apples in it to start, with a little bit of spinach. And, it would then turn a little bit more green as we go down. So it was more about how do I feed my family? And then when the birth of my second child, I actually, and this is a happy ending, but I had the home birth go wrong. And I had about a year where I had to recover from critical illness. And being the yogi and just used to easy, radiant health coming so naturally, it was a struggle for me. And I then had to up my game. because the healthy food that I was eating wasn't working. The yoga that I was doing, it was kind of working, but it wasn't quite getting me there. And I took the year of working with naturopathic doctors, Ayurvedic doctors, Chinese medicine, everybody. Like, I built my team to like get me back to the health that I was like just so used to just from practicing yoga. And one of my big like fundamental learnings was through an Ayurvedic practitioner. And she got me in the habit of a lot of things. 1, 3 meals a day. So I try to have my meals at a certain time every day. I don't drink a lot of water with my meals. I drink them in between the day so I can digest better. She put me on a diet of like warm, spicy, hot foods to eat. So she kind of like rebuilt my constitution, and it made me really aware of, we're eating all these things that are great for us, but the green smoothie that I give you might not be the same green smoothie that I drink. For example, yours has kale in it and apples, and my constitution, like what I'm about, is I would actually do better if I had oranges and spinach in mine, because kale's too much for my thyroid. So it put me on this path of like really refining my diet, almost the way I did with my yoga practice, but health-wise, and really getting into like what does that look like for my body? What does that look like for the people around me? And in another conversation to talk about, maybe there's a business upon this. Like, how do we get everybody? Well, we're starting something, but anyways, some stories for later. But how do we get like the food into your body that you need? Not that like your boyfriend needs, not that like your sister needs, but that you need. And that's really been my lesson over the last little bit here.
Awesome. Do I have time for one more question? More questions? Let's go to the crowd here, guys. Feel free to ask a question to our very experienced and gorgeous panel. Charlene.
So you guys all talked about how you were there now, and I'm the one who still eats hamburger helper. So at the beginning, how would you recommend that you start if you're like, hey, I need to do better? What are some of those baby steps? Because we know the end goal, but how did you get from point A to B?
Move to tuna helper. That was mine. Am I right? It actually exists. Yeah, you wanna?
I think this is an interesting one because I'm sure Lisa can also attest to this. We are super busy right now, and so me figuring out how to get meals that are healthy, so I'm not grabbing something that's terrible and not really food. The baby steps that I took was, I do set aside my Sundays, and I have a slow cooker going and a pressure cooker going, and I make a pot of oatmeal to get me through the week in the morning, or I start that at night, and then I use up all the Tupperware, and then I pretty much wash it on Saturday and start again, and that's been the easiest way for me to make sure that I'm consuming healthy food. And I'm really like, on Sundays I might be like, oh man, like I don't want to do this, but it's the thing throughout the week that's really enabled me to get through my week and sustain my week healthy.
I would say probably one of the easiest ways to start would be to shop at the farmer's market. And the reason that I say that is because it promotes local, seasonal, whole food. And if that's the one spot that you go to, you'll be crossing off all of those bases. And of course, the sustainability piece in supporting local small business, of course, is inherent in that. But buying less food from boxes, from plastic, from packages, and buying food that's fresh and whole. And yeah, that's the one-stop shop might be a really easy way to fulfill that obligation. And the summer farmers markets, which are all across the city, are about to start in a month. And so there should be lots of venues for you to be able to do that.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think we all have different sort of parameters, I guess, in our lives. We have budget, time. Like, everyone is busy. I think it's a default. Some people are busier than others. That's a fact. But I think it's to eating. What's the barrier to eating healthier? It's obviously, like, let's say if you went to Whole Foods, yeah, it's all obviously a lot pricier. So not everyone can afford to eat healthier. And I don't think health should be expensive, which is kind of ironic because, for example, if you go into Whole Foods, you look at the produce aisle, a lot of things are there are prepackaged and ready to go. So someone who can afford to go to Whole Foods and just get all these foods pre-ready, maybe have less of an issue than someone who has to do it from scratch, for instance, right, realistically. So I think for most of us, for all of us, it's just about planning what works for you. And like it was saying about having allocated time to do that. It's not having a healthier meal. It seems everyone knows they have to eat healthy. Everyone would like to. And if you go to a coffee shop, why not just looking at the option, which one is the whole grainer, which one's the lower fat, which one is the better muffin option, whatever. It's not as obvious as, there's a lot of content out there, but just the practicality of it is not as obvious for everyone. So I think it's the baby steps, really depends, obviously, not to be generic individuals, but just taking time to think about it and allocating time for it. Just allocating time to think about what works for me, and whether it's having, let's say 3 times a week, I'm gonna pack my lunch. That's a small goal you can accomplish maybe once a week. So without having a very high-end goal, but just starting from one thing, and I'm gonna start looking at recipes. There's a ton of recipes out there, we know that, and it can be overwhelming because people put up these pretty recipes and you're like, how does someone have time for that? But it's just figuring out let's see, I'm gonna start one vegetable at a time, I'm gonna learn one recipe, I'm gonna do it once a week, and then you start liking it. And most people, let's say if they're not, being an entrepreneur, you have basically no time and no life. But if you have a 9-to-5 job and you obviously have another, hobbies on the side, you will have some time to allocate to this on the weekends, on half the day. Just take small steps towards your healthier cooking for the week, and it's all about planning, I think. So, yeah.
I'd also add to that too, just loving where you're at. Being in this room amongst these women, I just would give you credit, you're already on a great path. And the fact that you have that awareness around it, that you're setting that intention, that's powerful in and of itself. And you'll get there. And if that's your intention, but just loving where you're at and sort of loving and enjoying the process of how that's gonna kind of unfold.
And I think one last note, maybe, sorry, to add to this, is a lot of women, I see a lot of people in our office asking us, because they know we're the healthy sort of corner, they're like, a lot of people get hard on themselves. They'll be like, oh, look at me, don't look at me, I'm eating chips right now. Look at me, I'm having a high sodium Campbell soup or whatever. And at the end of the day, it's about being non-judgmental towards yourself. And that's the thing that gets people, is when you get really hard on yourself. And that's what gets you saying, oh, I just missed the gym today, I feel so bad. And then you're gonna eat something unhealthy, I might as well. Or you eat something unhealthy and you're just like, okay, I need to go to the gym, but you're not doing it because you want to. It's you have to pay off those calories. So just being less hard on yourself, I think it's very important. And there's a balance you work out with yourself. So.
On the topic of being an entrepreneur and having no time in your life, how do you guys set those boundaries for yourselves where you can be like, I need to go to yoga today, or every day, or twice a day, or whatever, or I'm taking Sundays off to spend all day cooking when your to-do list is never ending, your inbox is always full. How do you guys make that rule for yourself where you can be like, nope, today I'm making all meal for 6 hours, or whatever it is?
Luckily, it makes itself for 6 hours, so I put it as a
Oh, repeat the question? It's how do you make time for the things that are really important when you're an entrepreneur and things are doing their thing. So I'll start with this one. I have 2 kids, 4. Jaya's 4 and William's 16 months. YYoga, and we're starting a new business. So, and I always like the time. Everybody's got the same amount of time. So I really do my best to not be like, oh, I don't have enough time. Really just loving time up. But I did it a couple of weeks ago. I confess, I did it a couple of weeks ago. I looked at my schedule, I looked at everything I did. I saw my yoga classes there, and I went, and I took them out. And I sat back, and I went, and I added more. And then there's still time, but it was getting those things done first. And maybe it's not the same hour-and-a-half yoga class, maybe it's an hour, or maybe it's my 20-minute meditation. But the times when I get busier are the times when I need my team more, I need my yoga team, I need to get in there more. So it's for me going, okay, well, what are the things that I need to do to get me feeling in the state that I need to be in to create what I'm creating? And then those things I don't budge on. And if that means you're up all night, and it just don't budge on them, for me.
I do want to speak to that a bit, because I recently have been how can I fit this all in? And I am someone who my brain is so overactive that if I don't exercise, I will spin out of control and things just don't function as good as they should. And I'm realizing that I have to do things in the morning because if I start my day, I'm never going to give myself the time later on to stop and do it. But if I can delay starting my day, that allows me to fit those time in. So I have to make sure that I work out or run or do yoga or whatever it is I'm doing in the morning. And then the other thing that I really had to come to terms with was that I'm never going to be done. And because I'm never going to be done, it's okay for me to take 4 hours and prep my meals for the week, because if I don't do that, then I'm going to run out of more time throughout the week. So if I can condense it down, then there's always going to be more work, and it's just never going to, it's never ending. And I'm never going to feel done, ever. Every time I shut my computer, I'm like, I wish there was a couple more hours, but I still wouldn't be done. So I just don't beat myself up for it, and I don't let myself get stressed out about that kind of stuff. I'm trying to deal with stress in a totally different way, which is I'm not stressed out. I just know that I'll get to it tomorrow. Like I can't do anything about that. It's just the nature of what I'm doing.
So, and I think everyone probably always, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're working, building your career, you're have an executive role. The big things we struggle for are sort of maintaining a healthy diet and some exercise and maybe some semblance of a balance of a social life. And somehow, how do you make all those things work or fit them in? So, again, scheduling, great. If every day you get up and you have a great breakfast, you've already 30% of the way there with your food. So maybe that's your goal, to fit that in, and you pre-plan it. But maybe it's not realistic that you're going to plan all your meals. So start there. I started to do meetings, like walk meetings, so active meetings, and so many people are so receptive to that. So rather than let's go meet for coffee, hey, it's a beautiful sunny day, let's go walk on the seawall and talk about how our businesses can work together, or this is a great concept I have, or this is a new product line, get it active, and this comes from people. I've done this with potential financiers, I've done this with someone who I'm looking to build sort of a networking relationship with, and everyone seems sort of relieved, like, I would love to get outside and get some exercise rather than sit here and have coffee with you. And you feel better, and then you fit something else in. You've kind of checked that box. So no, it's not running around the seawall 10K, you don't have that hour in the morning, maybe not, but where are you gonna grab the manager that works for you, grab your business partner, and make it an active meeting. And that really helped me build more activity into my life, because it's something I need it too, and I think everybody needs that. And argument over sleep versus activity, sometimes you give up one for the other, but how can you build what you're already doing into your life into sort of checking other boxes at the same time?
Just to add something to that, it's I think like we said before, like we all have 24 hours in the day. We're all trying to figure out how to make the most out of it while having some sort of sleep and getting things done. For us specifically, like our office is right in Cole Harbour. We're very lucky to have that location. We're right on Burrard and Hastings, so we're right by the sea, close to Stanley Park. So I try as hard as I can, even though as small as we are, to cultivate a healthy sort of, so to speak, culture in the office. So everyone has something different. If you're doing yoga, probably unless you have those things accessible to you, or you can do it after work. For me, for example, I like running because I can take it anywhere. I travel and I can run anywhere. I don't need anyone, I don't need anything, I just run around the block. So running is something that I do, and it's my own time, but I can't just do it in the morning because I get really, if I'm working 12, 14-hour days, I actually like to break my day and do something, right? I can't focus more like sitting for more than 8 hours. And lucky for us, we have a gym downstairs, so all of our staff have access to the gym so they can go there and work out. It's not necessarily about doing a cardio, they can do stretching or like some fitness tips by Tommy, things like that. So we like to walk our talk as much as we can. Running is, not everyone has the luxury to do that, but more people notice around our offices going and running lunchtime, for example. I think it's a great way. Some people, sometimes you don't have to go running for a whole hour because you still need to come back, shower and go back to work if you have just that 1 hour. But just finding something that works for you based on your work environment. In terms of food, it's also really important. Like for our office, we always buy fruits and vegetables, mostly fruit and some veggies that you can readily cut up because they would go bad otherwise. We work with other frozen lines that we work with, but having fruits and vegetables for everyone accessible at your office, however small it is, it's just a small gesture so that they can have a banana or like apples, and just we have a juice hour where we just go and just make smoothies, and it's just like our thing to do. So it facilitates sort of the culture of the company, especially into the space. It's important not to just preaching or like saying you should do this, but just like show by example, and we're not expert in this. We're trying to figure it out as well. So I think that's the main idea. So.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, ladies. That was wonderful. Well, on the topic of good for the soul, if anyone needs hot coffee or tea or anything like that, we are going to take a small break. So please feel free to head on upstairs. We have some great demos going on with some great companies up in the room to the side. And